So centralised grant management is when an organisation chooses to treat grant management as a function as well as a discipline. So not only is it happening within the organisation, but it is controlled and managed from a central location within that organisation. And this is really important and hugely beneficial. It ensures that the organisation has one view of its grant portfolio, one set of people who are accountable for the management and the delivery of the objectives against the organisation's strategy. It becomes much, much easier to manage on a much larger scale than if you choose to treat grant management in a decentralised manner. No organisation can know what it doesn't know. So start with a gap analysis. Whether you've been doing grants for years and years, or whether it's something that's a recent addition to the organisation, start with an external view of what's possible, what's best practice, and compare that to what exists within the organisation. Think big. So organisations will often settle for an amount of grant funding that is appropriate for what they want to achieve. I think there's the opportunity here to actually design for a much bigger grant program with much bigger outcomes and try and attract a greater level of funding. By doing that, we make the grant program more important to the organisation. It's a larger part of the overall revenue. It raises its profile and therefore gains attention and remains really important. In doing that, don't underestimate what your organisation is capable of. Many people will have been managing programs of certain sizes for a length of time, and this is the opportunity to make change and say, we now want to operate in a different way, and we want to operate on a larger scale. It then comes back to the classic mantra of people, training and systems. Do you have the right people in the right place across the organisation to manage a more complex portfolio? Is there additional training you can provide them? And do you have an overriding system and sets of processes that you can use to run that portfolio successfully? We took a sample of 9 or 10 rural and regional councils, and their collective income was around $300 million. We know that on average, 60% of the income of this type of council is grant related. And that gave us an average per council of around $16 million, but a range of 30 million to 7 million. So we're talking about a substantial amount of money here. We also know from the statistics that have been published that around every 100 million of government spend on projects attracts around 21 million of unexpected spending. So that's a 21% difference in the expected outlay. An average regional council could be wasting 3.4 million of their grant portfolio on errors. Again, when we talk about that range, with the councils that we were looking at, that's potentially 6 million down to about 1.5 million. We're talking about a significant amount of money here. So if we look at that amount of money and we say, okay, we could potentially be managing 60% of our income on spreadsheets. And there are some huge risks associated with doing that from an information perspective, from a security perspective, and just also from the ability of losing that information. If it's sitting there in that format, it's not easy to report on. And if we can't report on it, we can't analyze it. And if we can't do either of those things, we truly don't understand the status of our grant portfolio. And we will be missing the risk of material blowout costs, project overruns, project overspends, and unmanaged variations. All of those things, if they are identified early in the process, those risks can be mitigated. And the financial impact of those risks materializing can be mitigated. So the savings are potentially significant in choosing to make the investment in centralising grant management and overcoming some of the organisational inertia to have a highly professional, highly capable grant management function that is capable of managing a sophisticated grant portfolio at scale.